Works. I'm going to start my remarks by telling a little story. I've spent the last 15 years as a counselor on Village of Silverton Council, as a director on the Regional District of Central Kootenai Board, and on the Board of Directors of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, where I got to go to Ottawa several times a year for 10 years and work with federal government to develop programs and funding models for the programs that get delivered in our communities. These are not programs that go flying elsewhere. They're the ones that come into our community to help build our roads, our sewers, our water mains, our recreation complexes. So when this election was rolling around, my MP, who is just retired, Richard Cannings, asked if I would be willing to take the next step and go to Ottawa permanently as your MP. And I said, well, why not? I've got nothing better to do. My passion is community building, and that is how I've spent most of my adult life, in various ways, helping start preschool programs, helping start arts councils, helping start the lake stewardship societies, anything that helped build the community, make the community more comfortable, safer, more fun, and more productive. And that, of course, led into serving in public office. The likelihood of the NDP forming government is about like that. And if you can see any light between those fingers, I can't. What we will do with those members from the ridings who are NDP elected MPs is that we will keep whoever is in government, we will keep them honest. We will keep their feet to the fire, and we will make sure that they not only continue, but that they increase pharmacare, dental care, daycare, school lunch programs, and worker protections. One of the biggest programs that the NDP is looking at pushing for is reducing the subsidies that we pay to oil and gas companies and taxing them instead. So instead of giving them money, they will give us money, and that money will go to workers, to families, to communities, to help small businesses, medium-sized businesses, the big players. They have the resources to take care of themselves in this little hiccup we're going through. And most of them are foreign-owned anyway. So that's how I look at this landscape, this economic landscape, as a New Democrat. And I hope that you have a very similar way of looking at this landscape. I will represent our riding, the entirety of our riding, from the Slocan Valley up through the Arrow Lakes Valley, the Monashee, Vernon-Lake-Country. It's a big riding. I've been going back and forth. I've put thousands of kilometers on my car in the last couple of weeks. I will continue to do that when I am your MP. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you all so much for coming. Democracy is extremely important, and it's so good to see so many of you here. For those who don't know me, I'm a veteran, a small business owner, and a former two-term city councilor in Vernon. I'm also a husband, a father, and a dog lover. And anybody else who wants to know anything about me, please Google Scott Anderson Vernon, and you'll see that you'll find that I work hard and that I'm willing to be a leader when it's called for. I'll tell you a story about leadership and how I handled it as a city councilor in Vernon. In 2017, we had a tent city beginning to flourish in Polson Park, which is the main park in Vernon, as most of you know. And it had to, this is at the time when Victoria had the same problem, and it cost them millions and millions of dollars. The crime rate was skyrocketing all around it, and it was becoming a real problem. Victoria took it to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that if there are not adequate services for people to stay indoors at night, they would have to, they have the right to stay in parks. What the Supreme Court didn't say is that the tents have to remain there permanently. What happens when tents start to turn into a tent city is the garbage starts to accumulate, disease is rampant, drug use is crazy, and the crime rate in the surrounding area skyrockets. And so Victoria ended up spending millions of dollars in court costs and then millions of dollars more cleaning it up. What I did is make a motion in council, and this was when it was dicey to make a motion like this. I made a motion to require people to take down their tents in the morning and not put them up at night. What that stopped, it's not just to be mean, what that stopped is the accumulation of permanency in the area. When I first made the motion, because it was very controversial, it was voted down. About a week later, or 3 days later, somebody was shot in the leg in the tent city, and it went back, and my motion passed with, I believe it passed unanimously. So that's the type of thing that I am able and willing to do. I can recount several stories of that when I went against the grain, using common sense, and it turned out. What you may hear from my Liberal colleague is all about sovereignty, how bad the US government is, and how Carney will save us all. This has been the Liberal drumbeat for some time. You might even hear that a backbencher on the government side, on the off chance that the Liberals win, has somehow more power or a seat at the table. This is simply not true. We should all be concerned about tariffs and a seat at the table. A backbencher on the government side has no more or less power than a backbencher on the opposition side. It is the ability of somebody to speak up that makes that difference. The tariff threat has subsided, and while it is important, while tariffs are certainly something to worry about, we haven't heard anything about them. In the last tranche, no new tariffs were announced, and this seems to be subsiding as a problem. Ironically, the Republican Congress and a number of Americans are the ones stopping this threat. They're really pushing back, and that's why no new tariffs other than including the USMCA have been announced. So this is going. The Conservative Party has made it quite clear that Canada is not for sale, and as a former soldier, I'll be the first to step up and stop any type of invasion. It just is not an issue. The truth is that no one can control what the US does. The Conservatives have a full platform on the things that matter: lowering or eliminating taxation, taking down red tape, lowering immigration to sustainable levels, fixing our housing situation, stopping crime, and supercharging our economy. And we'll hear more about that. I'll talk more about that as we go on in the evening. We have more land, more water, more natural resources than almost any country in the world. We should be among the richest of them. Yet we have GDP growth of 0.5%, the lowest in the G7. We have higher crime rates, more drug use, unsustainable immigration, and less hope for future generations. And it is future generations that really count, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here because I have nothing better to do. I'm here because it's time for a change. Please vote for Conservatives so our kids will have a chance to someday own a home and support a family right here in Canada and not have to leave. Thank you.
Hi, Lumby. So I live here. I live about 3 blocks away. So I want to say thank you all for coming out. I'm so excited to be ending the forum cycle here in Lumby. I'm running for the Green Party because we're the only party that is suggesting affordable, fast transition to 100% renewable energy. We're the only party with a real plan for truly affordable housing. We're the only party who has a real plan to make our cost of living go down right away. And our plan to do this is fiscally responsible. The whole plan is available on our website. I'll talk more about it as we go on. But if we want to talk about a party that actually is looking toward the future for our children, for our grandchildren. The Green Party, I really believe, is the only option for us. We see every year in this area now, fire season. That wasn't the case when I was growing up here. We see every year in this area now, erratic weather patterns that cause crop loss, that impacts farmers. It impacts our economy. It impacts our tourism. And we need immediate and effective change. It's time to come up with a plan for climate mitigation, for climate resilience, not a reaction, which costs billions of dollars, by the way, but an actual plan. How are we going to help ourselves, our farmers, our foresters, and our entire economy here in Lake Country, Vernon-Monashee? So that's why I'm here today. We can do all that while creating jobs, while keeping our resources here in Canada, while defending against tariffs. This isn't simply one situation election. What we're looking at is a multitude of problems, but they all have a fairly simple answer. By keeping our resources here in Canada and supporting our workers, we can build more housing, we can create more jobs, we can move toward a sustainable future. And I think that that's really important. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. It's great to see many people here as well. I was encouraged to run for the Liberal Party just a little over a month ago. And I was really drawn to, I was called to take up this opportunity because I felt very, very strongly about what Donald Trump was doing, not just about the tariffs, but also about his interest in Canada, his interest in having more influence over us, his influence in getting more control over our natural resources, getting more control over the Arctic. You see what he also was interested in Greenland. It's no coincidence that Greenland and the Arctic are adjacent to each other, and the Arctic, when I talk about it in Canadian Arctic, it is all opening up to shipping. Now, because of climate change, it's melted, the ice flows, and now we can get the large icebreakers through, and it's a new route around the world. There's also a lot of critical minerals in the north, and the United States is also really interested in resource development, as is Russia. So when Trump says that he wants to do something, we should know by now, after seeing 4 years of the Trump administration, from 2016 to 2020, that he means it, and we need to take him seriously. So I was drawn to run for the Liberal Party because I know that Mark Carney is the best leader for taking on Trump. Mark Carney has the experience of an international economist who's worked, led the banks for 2 G7 countries. He has tons of international connections. He actually understands the economy, unlike Pierre Poilievre, who is a career politician. So I was drawn for those reasons to run, but I'm also drawn because of my experience working for 19 years for the Okanagan Basin Water Board. The Okanagan Basin Water Board is a partnership of Okanagan local governments. It has a board of elected officials. Rick Fairbairn here in the audience has been on my board for that whole time. Yay! As well as the different mayors as they've come and gone from Osoyoos and Kelowna and Vernon and Lake Country now. So it's really about local problems, understanding local problems, and looking at how to solve those problems, how to get people to work together across jurisdictions, how to get people to work together across political beliefs. When you're working the municipal level, it's nonpartisan. You're focusing more on what we all believe in, what are all of our shared needs. Our shared needs, like, we all basically want the same thing. We want peace, order, and good government, and we want clean water. We want clean air. We want protection from extreme weather. We want well-working drinking water treatment plants. We don't want to have sewage in the lakes. We want to have all these things. And we all want, and it doesn't matter what politics we have. So the whole thing about the Okanagan Basin Water Board is having communities and individuals come together and find ways to work together on those things that we share. And I believe that the same thing is true at every level of government. We need to have people who can work across parties, who can listen to every single member of the communities in their riding, regardless of their background, regardless of their political stripes, regardless of what color t-shirt they're wearing in this room right now. We all need to work together for the sake of our communities, because this is a time of challenge. The economy in the US is in chaos, and it is affecting all the other economies in the world. We're in for some rough sailing over the next few years, and we all are going to need to really work together. We're going to need to support each other, and we're going to need to be able to stand up to Donald Trump. So I'm here to listen. I'm here to find out more about the issues of every part of this riding. I want to help bring resources to this riding. I want to help create jobs. I want to help bring more medical professionals. I think we can do it all. Thanks. I'm getting excited.
Question to the NDP candidate and the Liberal candidate. Mark Carney wants to build 500,000 homes over the next 4 years. And I've built a few homes in my day. I'm a baby boomer, and we've all basically moved on and retired. So I'm just wondering, where is he going to get the labor to do this and to accomplish this task in 4 years? 500,000 homes. First to you, the Liberal lady, and then to the NDP lady. Thank you.
It's ambitious. A big part of that plan is to lean into building prefabricated homes. Prefabricated homes can be built, can be put together much more quickly and much more efficiently by using skilled tradespeople who are working in a factory type environment in big warehouses. You can set those homes on a truck and you can ship them around to different parts of the country. I have a friend who has a prefabricated home business in Nelson, and this is what he does. He ships his homes up to the Yukon, and they are all set up and ready to go in 2 months. So that's part of it. The issue of skilled tradespeople, carpenters and other people to do the building, part of the answer is that we're going to train more people. Part of the answer is that we're going to break down interprovincial trade barriers so that people from different parts of the country can move to where the jobs are at that particular time. We did it at the end of the Second World War. It can be done again. If the people are fired up, ready to go, and if the government will make those kind of investments to make it happen.
You need a good number of people.
Yes. I used to be in the home building business myself. I know what you're talking about.
What the Liberal candidate is proposing are some very good approaches to the problem. The NDP would also add on to that we would be looking to free up federally owned lands to be either donated or on 99-year leases to community groups, to societies, to communities to build on using prefab, using other methods of construction, concrete pattern making. There are many ways to approach it. Yes, we do need to train more tradespeople, and we need to look at various ways of financing co-ops, freeing up CMHC to guarantee lower cost loans for first-time home buyers. It's going to take a plethora of approaches to do this, but we can't do it.
I'll take an opportunity to do that because we actually do have a plan to do that. How to not only do it, but not only fund it, but to actually create the professionals who can do it. First of all, we'll axe the sales tax on new homes, which is GST. That can be substantial on any new homes. We'll sell off 6,000 federal buildings and use federal land as well. We've got swaths of federal land to facilitate new building. Most of the problem, a lot of the problem anyway, is at the municipality level where homes are tied up into endlessly new regulations that add cost every time they're added. I know in Vernon it was taking up to 18 months from the time somebody came in with the plan until the time that they were okayed to go. And they could have been stopped at every step of the way, even though they had spent money to do that. So incentivizing municipalities to speed things up is crucial. We'll bring 350,000 positions for trade schools open. We'll bring back the $4,000 apprenticeship grant. And the capital gains deferral program, as long as people can trigger their capital gains and they're not taxed on it, as long as they invest in Canadian goods, this is going to create a financial boom that drives house building in the private sector considerably. So all of those things together we're not searching for a plan, we actually have a plan. Thank you very much.
I would just like to point out that all of the plans that we've heard could have all been implemented long ago. So the housing crisis that we're in right now has been a crisis in the making for longer than the past 10 years. The housing crisis is caused by private investment. Housing is viewed as an investment as opposed to as a human right. What we really need to do to ensure that everybody can be housed, and that means not merely only looking out for homeowners, but looking out for renters as well, is an entirely different plan. We've heard all of these promises before. We've been here before. Housing continues to go up. People can't afford to own. People can't afford to even rent anymore. The Green Party suggests that we need to actually define what affordable means. Everybody keeps throwing around affordable housing. I have yet to hear a definition. Does anybody know what truly affordable for the average Canadian is? It's not the average house price. So we need definitions of what we even mean when we're talking. Words have meaning. The Green Party wants them to have meaning again. These should not be empty promises. And we also are looking at creating federal housing that is not owned by private corporations. We should be investing in not-for-profit organizations. We should be investing in corporate cooperative housing so that people can truly afford to live. It's our right to have housing. We have enough for all of.
So, a question was asked earlier regarding the conservative plan for responsible resource development, and I would just like some clarification from Ms. Fisher on where she got the idea that that would be done without any consultation or without any permitting, because I certainly didn't hear anything like that.
Yeah, thanks. Clarification is always good. So Pierre Poilievre came out with a statement, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, that the plan was to open Canada up with pre-approved permits, which are not permits. The whole point of a permit is to make sure that the air, water, and the infrastructure being built, that nothing will impact the safety of Canadians So a pre-approved permitting is not a permit. Also, there was no discussion about Indigenous consultation. So opening up that whole area across Canada covers treaty land, covers unceded territory, all of which legally require consultation, which Mr. Polyev did not address at all. So that was why I mentioned that is both illegal and unethical for those of us who have to live with the consequences of the actions of exploiting Canada's resources.
I'd like to say that the absence of something does not presuppose something else. When you say opening up resources, it is a blank statement. What my colleague is suggesting is that he didn't fill in the details, and that is not suggesting that the details are no consultation, no recognition of other jurisdictions or anything like that. It simply means we're opening it up. I say we're opening it up too. That doesn't mean that we're going to roughshod, drive a corridor through with no consultation. That means we're going to stop throwing logs in front of the consultation process, as has been going on for 10 years. The Northern Gateway Pipeline, for example, if we had it built now, when it was supposed to be built, when the Conservative government wanted to build it, we would be able to turn the taps off to the United States, turn them on to Asia, and these tariffs would have much less effect. The same thing applies to the Gateway East pipeline. If we had it in place, we would not be in the same situation we are today at the mercy of the United States. Thank you.
Let's move on to another question. Over here.
Real quick, that this is Ukrainian, and I would love to hear your plans about the self-determination of the Ukrainian people.
Sorry, you'd like to hear my plans about
The self-determination of the Ukrainian people,
my plans for it?
or your parties.
My party's plans for it. I don't think my party has a plan for it. I can tell you that, we're supporting the Ukrainian defense of its sovereign territory, if that's what you mean. I was over there in November. We went over to Lviv and then traveled to the Eastern Front and traveled all the way from Kharkiv all the way down to Mykolaiv. All of those cities were under constant bombardment by the Russians. I went there to find out what was going on because the barrage of propaganda from Russia and from Ukraine makes it almost impossible. One side is saying we're being invaded, the other side is saying we're taking back our territory because, for the self-determination of the people there. What I found, what I had heard, is that the people in the Eastern Oblasts, which are the provinces in Ukraine, are Russian, ethnically Russian, and they speak Russian, and therefore they belong with Russia. What I found when I went there is quite the opposite. There are blue and yellow flags everywhere, on lampposts, on individual car antennas. Everywhere you look, there's blue and yellow. And one of them, I went there with some professional military people, the SAS, and one of them, and also a bunch of some academics, PhDs, one of them suggested that they were told by somebody in the Eastern program, they put it best. They said, we didn't really know whether we were Russian or Ukrainian until the first bombs started falling, and then we became Ukrainian. And that, I absolutely believe for two reasons. One is the people on the ground are being ignored in all of this geopolitics that's being talked about. They're being totally ignored, and their wishes are being ignored, and essentially Russia has taken a 20% of Ukraine and is making all sorts of excuses for it. The other issue with it is the sovereignty of nations. International law, all the way from the UN Charter to what's been accepted as international law forever, is based on the sovereignty of nations, and that's been true since the Westphalian Treaty several hundred years ago. If we allow this to happen, it's the same thing that happened from the League of Nations in the 1930s when Italy invaded sovereign territory in Africa. And everybody was, oh, sovereignty of nations is important, but we're not going to do anything about it. And so the League of Nations effectively collapsed, and that, in a very indirect way, led to the next, into the 1940s. I don't want to see that happen. I think we have to defend sovereignty of nations. I think the United States is making a dire mistake in trying to pull out right now. And so I'm very much in favor of Ukrainian sovereign territory staying Ukrainian.
We'll take one more. Over here.
This question is for Ms. Warwick Sears. In the last provincial election, you ran as a candidate for the BC NDP, and now you're running for the Liberal Party of Canada. What motivated this change? And do you genuinely have the best interests of the constituents of Vernon-Lake-Country-Monashee in mind, or is this just driven by political convenience? Thank you.
Nice.
Reasonable.
I ran for the BC NDP because we needed someone to run against the far-right Tara Armstrong and to provide better representation for that riding's communities in Victoria. It was very clear that we needed that support. I had a lot of people coming and encouraging me to run for that. So I ran as a centrist. I felt comfortable with running as a centrist. Another reason why I ran is because I really felt like there was not enough interior representation in the NDP in Victoria. I did not think that the NDP fully understood what all of our issues are, despite having NDP MLA in Vernon. We definitely needed more representation in Victoria for those reasons. I put my political hat on the shelf. I did not think about it at all. I had no plans to run. I was going to volunteer to help the local Liberal candidate with their election because I really believed that Mark Carney, once he got the nomination, was going to be the best leader for Canada. 100% believed that. I went and met him in Kelowna. Well, when I say I met him, I had a selfie with him. But I heard him talk and was just really impressed with how down-to-earth he was and very heartened by his international experience and credentials. And I 100% believe that he was the right leader. So there is no comparable thing with the federal Liberals and the provincial NDP. The provincial NDP is theoretically the same party as the federal NDP, but they really have different flavors, if you will. They're different from one another in terms of their focus and what their primary reason for being is, right? So I was asked to run for the federal Liberals a little over a month ago. I am running essentially the similar campaign as a centrist, wanting to have a louder Western voice in the federal Liberal Party. I think that in my years of working among the communities in the Okanagan, I have a pretty good sense of what Okanagan issues are. I really, I did not plan to walk into this and have a political career. I really was driven by what I saw was a very strong need for somebody to run for the Liberal Party, and I guess I was it. So there was nobody else who was running. It was a couple days before the writ was dropped when I agreed to run. So it made a lot of sense to me, and I don't feel any kind of internal conflict about it at all.
I feel it is very, very important to maintain Canada's multi-party system of governance and not just have credence given to the Liberals and the Conservatives, and then the Liberals again, and then the Conservatives again. The NDP and the Greens and other parties have a very important voice to raise and role to play in governing this large country. But ultimately, after all the votes have been cast and all the seats have been filled, it is up to those folks who hold office to work together to solve the challenges we face.
Yeah, it's nice to have everybody commenting on my
Well,
motivation.
it is, I'm not commenting on Anna's motivation. I'd just like to point out the NDP, provincial NDP is, there's not a lot of daylight between the provincial and the federal NDP, as we all know. I just, not talking about Anna, I'll talk about me. In 2014, I ran for the BC Conservatives, and subsequently ran for the CPC, the Conservative Party of Canada. I ran in 2015 as a city councillor under a Conservative banner, and I'm now running for the Conservatives. I've never decided to run for another party. Thank you.
We're going to take some final comments from each of the candidates. We'll go in reverse order now. We'll start with Anna Warwick-Sears, please.
There are great things that are possible in this riding. The people are strong. There's a lot of opportunity. We need to have more growth in rural areas, more jobs, more revitalization. In the urban areas, we need a lot more infrastructure. We need funding to help with things like drinking water treatment plants. There's a lot that we can do in our communities if we're working together. And the Liberal Party of Canada is committed to making these things possible. Personally, my role as an MP, as your member of parliament, will be to listen to you, to listen to all parts of the community, and to take your voice back to Ottawa. If there are needs in the community, whether they're policy needs, whether they're concerned about particular issues that can be addressed in Ottawa, then I will take those questions with me to Ottawa. If there are things, resources that members of the community need, that institutions need, though, if we need a highway fixed, if we need better bus service, I will seek out those resources and I will bring them back to the community. I can see you, I hear you, I'm there for you. As a listener, more than anything else, I believe that a member of parliament's main role is to serve their community. So, thank you, and if you haven't already voted, please vote for me on April 28th. Thank you very much.
Blair Fisher from the Green Party.
Glad someone remembers the order. So, this is the last opportunity I get to talk to a big group all at once before the election. I have heard so much rhetoric about strategic voting, about vote splitting, and I would really just like to address the elephant in the room. We have been in this place before, slightly different circumstances, but this happens every few elections or so, where suddenly there can be no other option. We have to choose between what we consider not good and slightly less not good.
Hey.
And then, I'm sorry, I'm speaking to the people who know. If you know, you know. If we continue to allow this kind of rhetoric, we never end up with any change that we want. We have heard over and over that all of these parties who have had an opportunity to hold power, they know what to do for you, for housing, for cost of living. Why don't we have it? Why don't we have it? It's time for us to vote what really matters, what we actually value, and to believe that change is possible. The only way that we are going to see any change is if we decide to stand up for it. That's why I'm here. That's why I am here fighting a fight that seems unwinnable. I'm committed to change for our area, and I'm committed to change for Canada. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm asking for you, Lumby, to believe that we can have a better Canada. And we can choose it right now on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll echo my colleagues' comments. Liberals have been in charge for 10 years. We've heard lots of great ideas, mass transportation, food security, all of these things. Why don't we have them now? This is the most important election in a generation, and it may be the most important one ever. I know that's said a lot, but this time I think a lot of us feel that it is too. On one hand, we have a choice between saddling our grandkids with a rental economy, and I say that because the housing plan that the Liberals have put forward mentioned rentals lots, and they mentioned home ownership not a bit. And so we're looking at that. With generational debt that is astonishing, we've got a budget now tabled by Mark Carney that's even worse than, even much more expensive than the Trudeau government came up with. We've got red tape and restrictions so badly that our kids are going to have to leave Canada to just get ahead, to ever be able to buy a house, to do anything but live paycheck to paycheck. And I've seen it around me. As, this is not an abstract statement. The other choice we have is a strong and vibrant Canada that actually gives kids a fighting chance to someday own a house and to get ahead and to not live paycheck to paycheck and maybe put a little bit away. We've got tax breaks, we've got tax ways that people can trigger capital gains that are going to boost our economy and create jobs all through it, if we do it. The Liberals have tried everything to deflect attention away from their own record, and their record is why we're in this state right now. Mark Carney is quite famous for telling one group one thing and another group another thing. He says to Quebec that he'll never force pipelines. He says to people in Alberta that he's going to force pipelines across Canada. Which one is the truth? Because one of them isn't the truth, and when you tell an untruth, it's generally known as a lie. So we don't know what the Liberals are going to do. We just know what they're saying they're going to do. Most of the popular things that they're saying they're going to do are borrowed from our platform. I almost wonder when we're going to see another soldiers in the streets ad, because that's the situation that the Liberals are producing. The Conservatives, on the other hand, plan to cut the Liberal deficit by 70%, less spending on bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, and handouts to insiders and special interests, while boosting growth with resource jobs. I've said that. Polyev has said that. That's what we're going to do. Lower income tax, 15%. With the average that will save the average person $900, and the average working family $1,800. And that may seem like a pittance when we're talking about millions, but for the average person, it's not a pittance. I see a smile, but it's not a pittance. It's important to people. We're building 2.3 million homes by axing taxes and saving $100,000 a home, selling off federal land that is required for these houses, getting gatekeepers out of the way, and speeding up building. And we're going to actually do something about crime. With repetitive criminals, we're putting them away. So I urge you for the future, for our kids' future, in order for them to ever have a chance to buy a house and ever pay down this debt that we've accumulated, to vote for the Conservatives so that we have a future. Thank you.
The Conservative Party is really fond of referring to municipalities as being gatekeepers against building housing. Well, let me tell you, you can't build housing without having the infrastructure in the ground first. I have seen successive Liberal and conservative, and then Liberal, and then conservative, and then Liberal governments reduce federal transfer taxes for health care. I have also seen in the last few years the NDP hold the Liberals' feet to the fire and get pharmacare, which the Liberals did not want to do, to get dental care, which the Liberals did not want to do, to get $10 a day daycare, which the Liberals did not want to do. In a multi-party system, as opposed to a two-party system, it requires the third and fourth and fifth voice. It's not like betting on a horse race where you want to put your money on who's going to win. You really should be wanting to put your money on someone who is going to work for you, for workers, for families, for small businesses, for communities, and in the most recent past, that has been the NDP. Many of you have already voted. Many of you have not yet voted, and you get your last chance on Monday, April 28th. I think the smart money is on me. Thank you.
Well, thank everybody for coming out. They can stick around, I guess, if they'd like, for about 15 minutes inside here to answer questions directly if you want to in person. And you're more than welcome. We're going to shut the doors about 8:20, and you can carry on outside if you'd like. So,
Thank you.